Planet X. The truth is on air. City Talk 105.9.
Let's talk dreams. This is quite an interesting little story that you first got involved with, Steve. How many years ago?
8 years now. Steve first contacted me, and it's quite interesting, actually, the first phone call, because I was quite up for the challenge. Steve said that he could provide me evidence of an ability he claimed to have.
And Steve Johnson is actually here now, the man who dreams the future. Steve, welcome to Planet X.
Yes.
Now, there's a funny story about you actually coming in, because he doesn't do many media interviews, do you, Steve?
Nah.
But there was two reasons why you felt like you had to do this one. First was because our first show was on the 1st of April.
Yeah.
And that's your son's birthday.
Yeah.
And your son is called Robbie.
After Robbie Fowler, yeah.
After Robbie Fowler. You're from the Midlands.
Yeah.
But a massive Liverpool fan.
Fanatic, yeah.
And he's come dressed in all his Liverpool gear. So apologies to... It's probably not the best thing to start
We're in the
interview
final,
with.
mate.
I know, but you've got half of the blue half all turning off now.
Ah, well.
I'm still here.
But, yeah, Dan's a blue, aren't you? He's a blue,
Sad
so
blue.
he's not too happy about yesterday. Anyway, listen, let's not talk football. Let's talk dreams. Now, you first contacted Steve Mera when it all started happening for you. Let's go way back and find out when it all started happening.
Originally?
Yeah, when did you... I mean,
late 90s.
Everybody dreams, but these were like something you've never had before.
Yeah.
They were so, realistic or vivid?
Well, what led me to start to think a lot about them was that I was dreaming about my parents. And so I'd have been sort of 28, 29. Bearing in mind, my mum died when I was like 15. My dad died when I was 23. Then out of the blue, I started to dream about them. And it was that they were repetitive in as much as they were set in the same place, which is where I was brought up in the Midlands, a council estate I lived on. And I just thought, and I spoke to my wife about it, and it was kind of, well, you know what, there's a lot happened in your life, and your parents are dead at a fairly young age, I suppose I was, and I thought, well, yeah, maybe. And then it started to wake me up the same time every time. Same setting, same people. It was 22 minutes past 2 in the morning. And this kept happening. So I was thinking to myself, what are the chances of that happening? How many minutes are there in a day and stuff like that? And I thought, well, to wake up the same time every time, the same type of dreaming, even though initially not a lot was happening, I thought, there's something going on here. Something weird. And then, as 2000 kicked in, this waking up at this time, having these sorts of dreams, was starting to take over my life in many ways. And then into 2001, early on, some really powerful dreams that definitely, when September 11 happened, that's what it was telling me. And from then on, it's just gone on and on and on and on and on. Don't stop. Every big bit of news that's been since then comes to me before it happens.
Now, the first big bit of news was, I think you were telling me before we got you on, was 9/11. So how far in the future did you start dreaming about 9/11? Tell us about that sequence.
March 2001. Very strong dream. The elements were all there. Back at my childhood home. My mum was there. I think my dad was in that. Out of nowhere, the huge Boeing come overhead, and so low I could read its number plate if there's a number plate on a Boeing, but you know what I mean. And then a bomb went off in the street, and then there was fighter jets hurtling through the sky. And this was taking place in a council estate in the Midlands, and I was in this dream. It was so strong, didn't make any sense to me. Boeings, bombs, and didn't make any sense. And then there was another one that opened with a Boeing. And this dream was centred around the Spiritualist Church near where I live as well, oddly. And that opened with a Boeing, and there was people running around with machine guns and bullets pinging everywhere. And so there was. I was writing poetry and stuff, and I was calling it Terror in the Sky. And as that went on, I had a vision while I was awake, and I told my wife about it. It was lying next to me. I was in it like a helicopter, the glass like helicopters, little glass all the way around. And I was looking down, and all these tall buildings, and I was like, oh, wow, I'm in America, cool. So I said to the missus, I nudged her, I said, we're going to America, Steph. She goes, oh, that's good to sleep with you. And then I worked that out as it looked like New York. And then as the time went on then, one particular night I could hear New York, New York by Sinatra. And I've got an old Sinatra album because I've got loads of records. And I actually got up. I thought, is it on the record player? No, it weren't. And I went on, and that happened to me quite a bit. I could hear this song kept hitting my head all the time. Of all the songs that hit your head, that's one that wouldn't hit mine ordinarily.
And this wasn't in a dream. This was while you were awake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was searching. I was within myself as well as outwardly. I watched a program called Faces of Islam. That was on in about July 2001. And I was drawn to a lot of that, a lot of what was happening, what I was seeing on that program. I was like, wow. So I said to the missus in the next day, I said, get me the Quran. I didn't even know what it was. I'd never heard of it. But the library didn't have it. And I was really drawn. I really wanted to know about Islam. And then, obviously, on September 11, all the elements come together. What was unpleasant about it, throughout that summertime, I was being hit with massive, stronger than migraines. My doctor said they're cluster headaches. They just go through my right eye. It's like my brain's on fire. So I had all that spinning around in my head, and then bang, the Boeings in New York. There it was, blamed on Islamic fundamentalists. Everything, all the elements were there. Everything was there, and I was like, what? Okay then.
And had you before this had happened, before 9/11 had happened, had you shared this with friends, family, Steph, your partner?
Yeah.
And they must have been literally blown away when it actually did happen.
Yeah.
So at what point, was it after that then you thought, hang on a minute, I'm going to have to do something like this? Or were there more events to come?
Well, then it was self-analysis. Why is this happening to me? It opens all sorts of questions. Is this coming from God? Is there a God? What's God? Is it, therefore, then, because it's so bad, is it coming from the devil? Is there a devil? What's the devil? I didn't have a clue about anything, religion, anything, didn't care. It wouldn't mean anything to me. So I was very self-analytical. Why? What's going on? What's happening to me? Why is this? Who can I tell? Not that I care if people say I'm nuts. I don't care what they call me. I knew I weren't nuts. So I've had to be very careful who I told, what I told, when I told them. And eventually, it led me to him.
Him being Mr. Steve Merritt, who's our planet expert. So then, what happened then? This guy got in touch with you. You've seen it all, haven't you, over the 30 years? So you just thought another nut job.
Oh, well, I'll be all right. Okay, let's be honest. Yeah, I mean, I've had people come to my house and knocking on my front door and I've had to have the police remove them because, they think I hold the secrets of the universe. I've had a lot of people promise fantastic things over the years, and unfortunately, I'm a man of evidence. I'm trained in the scientific mind to look for those things, statistical analysis, chance factors, targets being reached. And unfortunately, they kind of fizzle out 3-4 weeks down the road, they kind of, no, they're not so good. And the chance factor says, there is a possibility of predicting that. And, when you really sort of start looking at it, you end up ruling them all out nearly. And very rarely do we ever get people come forward where we do seem to find not just a little bit, not just evidence, but a consistent amount of evidence, but it's consistency. And for us, that's what's important. Steve contacted me 8 years ago, said that he had these things going on. I was up for the challenge. I said, and I had to admit I probably was a little bit arrogant back then because I thought, this is just another one. It'll be gone in a month's time. And
8 years later?
8 years later, here we are with over 1,400 documented sheets of incidents. I've lost count into the hundreds, to tell you the truth. And I've been begging for the last 8 years, someone please approach me and put up some argument for me, because we've got evidence. I've got the printed documentation of events taking place before they've happened.
And we've got to mention as well, because there will be people out there, and you must get it all the time, Steve. I'll call you Steve Johnson, because there's two Steves in the studio. But you must get it all the time because you've kept a diary, but of course that can be falsified. But you came up with, I think it was Steph, your partner, who came up with a really good way, something that is legally used in law courts, of documenting your dreams via the email. Tell us about that.
Well, Steph just said, I said, even though, like, this diary I brought you today to show that I kept in 2004, 2005, people could say, well, that's falsified. You could have written that any time. Although there are emails that have gone off to Steve that back up that was written when I said that it was. But away from that, Steph said to me, well, Steve, the way you can prove this is if you, as soon as anything comes to you, you send it to Steve Meara, because it pops up the date and the time and it's authentic, and they use emails in law courts. I thought, right, OK, good enough for them, good enough for me. So that's what we did. And I've sent him thousands and done his head in like I promised him on my way.
Yeah, we've an overwhelming amount, you know, over the years. I mean, like I said, you know, just one incident. Even in the space of we've been talking for the last 2 weeks about this, Neil. There's been an incident. I was away in Wales last week, you know, and I got a phone call from Steve then regarding an incident that took place, and he was bang on again from a reported documentation that I've got from February. I think it was February, wasn't it, Steve? From February. And I've got the dates, the time, the information there, and it happens last week. It's just phenomenal. I don't know how he does it. I'm trained to pull this guy apart, you know, and try and find rational explanations. I'm still looking for them. And I'm a trained parapsychologist. I'm qualified. I've done the work to get to where I am. I can't find a rational explanation for this. I doubt anybody else can.
Steve Johnson, the man who dreams the future, is with us on Planet X. Steve, do you know how it happens, how it works? I mean, do you get stuff when you're awake as well?
Yeah.
So would you call yourself a psychic or a medium?
No.
Do you know where it's coming from?
I'm just gifted. That's it. You know, what can I say? I'll tell you what, there's a little thing I wrote, actually. And this explained it, because there was more stuff happening to me. And I write loads of poetry, and I wrote a very little one here. And this links straight into the tsunami eventually. And I wrote, gifted, mad or cursed, the enactments he once rehearsed, in Bedworth and many a far-off flung place. To stare at you there, to say it's unfair, to see all these things in my face. To question above, to prove there's true love and see all this violence in my day. So you decide. Time to run, time to hide. And as the land slips and slides, I will say, I told you so. I didn't know at that time whether I was gifted, whether I was nuts, whether I was cursed, what it was. I've stopped asking and looking, because you end up like a dog running around spinning after your own tail. No point. No point in worrying about it. No point in thinking about it. I just accept it and I just do it.
When Steve Meara first brought me the news about yourself and brought yourself to my attention, I said to him, he sounds a bit like that woman off the telly, you know, the medium in America, the UK version of Alison Dubois. We've got a little clip of the show. Alison Dubois is a medium who gets most of her information from dreams, and they've turned it into a hit TV show. Here's a little clip from the actual show. If you've seen it before, you'll know all about it. It's called Medium, and it's based on a real-life woman in America who dreams the future.
What's wrong? You okay?
Yeah. No, it was just a dream, I guess.
Was I in it?
I guess I can't help but wonder, where is God in all of this? I mean, I really do believe that I see these things for a reason. And the reason is to help people to make things right. But if that's the case, how can he be allowed to do this? I mean, it makes me question everything.
So there we go, a little clip from the American medium called Alison Dubois, a real-life medium who gets a lot of every information from dreams. That little clip there, I wanted to play that because it throws up a couple of questions for me. First of all, if you've watched the show, you'll know that her husband, long-suffering husband, Joe Dubois, is constantly being woken up at silly o'clock, just like yourself. You get woken up at around about, 22 minutes past 2. So, obviously, I've met Steph. Is she constantly getting woken up with all these weird tales at stupid hours of the day?
Not so much anymore. She
got used to it now.
And it's not as though I wake up and go, oh, look, there's another one. You know, there are times I actually enact what's going to happen, albeit symbolically a lot of the time. So my heart's jumping out my mouth a lot of the time, sweating, pinned to the bed and, like, freaking out. Then when I can move, I've got these 3 neon 2s looking at me. It's not like, oh, there's another one. It's scary. So, yeah, I used to wake up quite a lot and say it's happened again. And you know.
But she's used to it now.
Yeah, you get used to it, don't you?
The other question that I wanted to throw at you from that particular clip in Medium was, what's it all about? Is there a reason that you're getting this information?
That's a great question.
Is God giving you this information for you to do something about it?
That's a great question. The only way I can answer that is, don't ask why it's happening to me. It's happening through me, if you will. I'm not that important. I'm just a bloke. The question that needs to be asked is, why is this constantly happening to me year after year? And these events where millions of people have died, by the way, why is that happening? What is it telling us, if anything at all? I don't know.
If you want to get in touch with the show, if you've got a question for Steve Johnson, the man who dreams the future, really easy to get in touch with us. You can text the word talk and then send it off to 61025. So it's talk and then 61025. Or email us planetx@citytalk.fm, or we'll get some more from the Facebook page as well. Join the Facebook page, Planet X, and then just put in 105.9. Oh, it's City Talk, isn't it? 105.9.
That's right, City Talk 105.9 on the Facebook page.
This is Planet X on City Talk 105.9.
Welcome back to Planet X. I'm Neil Atkinson, and we're talking all about dreams. We've got the man who dreams the future. Mr. Steve Johnson is here, along with Steve Mira, who's one of our Planet experts and also the editor of Phenomena magazine. If you missed the first half of the show, Steve, just do a little bit of a recap. This is somebody came to you 8 years ago, and you've been doing the documentation.
We've been documenting what Steve has been saying to us over the last 8 years. He sends it through electronically to us, so it's registered, data is logged. It's good enough for the court system, it's good enough for us. And we have, beyond a shadow of a doubt, obtained information of future events documented by Steve before they actually happened. So it's absolutely fascinating.
I'm just looking through some of the text, but I think there's only so much information you can put in because it's cut off. And somebody's put, Steve drew me a picture of one of his dreams. Have you been drawing?
Oh, yeah,
pictures?
that'd probably be Kathy, my sister-in-law, yeah.
I thought it was, hi, Kath.
Yeah,
I thought it was a jet flying between what I thought was the two towers of a tower bridge.
Yeah.
But it's cut off then, so I don't know the rest.
Yeah.
Do you want to fill us in on the picture?
Steph's sister's cool. She's a good girl. She's clever, man. And I was telling her what was happening to me at that time, and I drew what I'd seen and trying to put it together on a piece of paper. I wrote Islam, I wrote Bowens, because I saw the Manhattan Bridge. And I said, look, is that the Manhattan Bridge? And I said, there's an aeroplane and stuff and all this. And she said, that looks like a Spitfire flying into London Bridge. I said, no, love, it's a passenger plane. Look, there's windows, look, for passengers. And we just we couldn't work out what it was. So
when I first spoke to you as well, and I'm guilty of this, before 9/11 happened, I didn't know what the Twin Towers... Does anybody know what the Twin Towers were?
I'd never heard of them.
I'd never heard of the Twin Towers.
No.
But you knew that these things existed because they were in your dream, even though you'd never heard of them.
Well, that drawing, that actually was very definitive, because when it actually happened, and the camera panned back, I was like, right, there's them great big buildings I saw that have now got Bowens sticking out of them, and there's the Manhattan Bridge in front of it. In New York, so it was obvious what it was. But it was only till then that even Kathy couldn't work it out, and she's got more sort of degrees and stuff, and I've got teeth, and I've got a lot of teeth.
What are some of the other things that you've dreamt about as well? You've done, obviously, the big ones, 9/11. Did you get the 7/7, the tube? What else?
The plan the year after to do that, the one when they grounded all the Bowens at Heathrow. I was...
Oh, you got the tsunami as well, didn't you?
And the tsunami, yeah.
The floods, the British floods.
And all the floodings in 2006 at the same time, I got that as well.
The Chinese cockle pickers.
Yeah, there's so many, I don't know where to start.
This just goes on and on and on, Neil. I mean, what's really interesting is, because it was like what you posed that question earlier to Steve about, why... what is the reason behind it? A lot of people thought, well, could it be the fact that something's edging Steve to try and change the future? I don't believe that happens, because really, if you think about it, we end up with that paradox theory where if you did change it, then you wouldn't have had the precognition of it in the first place. they end up with the paradox theory, you know. And I've always stood by that. There is no documentation I'm aware of, and I'm a parapsychologist, that there's evidence to support that somebody has changed a future event. You know, they've come very, very close, but not actually changed it. And the question is that if they did change it, then would they have really have had the precognition about it first? Steve's ability, he's a precognitist. When you say medium's a very funny word these days. Lots of people see it as more like TV people, you know, go on and say the channeling in the sense of speaking. Simply, it's what we're dealing with here, if we actually look at it from a parapsychological point of view, extrasensory perception, it's precognition. Steve's getting it in a precognition way. There was also numerological phenomena taking place in there, because it affects him in his physical life as well. It's not just in his day, in his night, in his dreams.
You're talking about the time when he wakes up, the 222 thing.
Yeah, because he may be up and about during the day, and there is physical pointers as well. Incidents that sometimes take place, so it's in his night, it's in the night, it's in his dreams, it's in his physical world as well. So we're dealing with something very, very profound, very, very strange, something I've never really come across before.
Steve, I wonder, in the time since these events have been happening to you, did you then go on a quest to maybe look at prophecy as an occurrence in history, you know, other prophets such as Nostradamus, such as Edgar Cayce, other people that had experienced it or reported experience similar things to you? Did you do some research into that, and what did you make of it all?
I started to read some stuff, the doctrines as they come from Nostradamus, and I thought, I didn't really understand it, certainly the interpretation of it, and I thought, well, I'm a lot more accurate than him. Mine's in your face. So...
Yeah, Nostradamus, if you don't know, is very cryptic, isn't it? It could mean anything.
It is certainly down to interpretation.
I did quite a lot of research-ish, I suppose, and I just came back to myself. Because there's no one else out there like that.
And did you try maybe any other techniques to create your prophecies? I mean, you know, that other prophets had used, or did you just stay with what you knew was currently, you know, things like scrying? Or
like Nostradamus used to look in a bucket of water and stuff.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
No.
Did you ever look into any of that?
No, I wanted it to stop. It was getting on my nerves.
Yeah, I mean, Steve did. When he contacted me when I talked a couple of years ago, he went through a bit of a patch where, you know, it was really getting into him, because it was affecting his life.
Yeah, and the headaches sound horrendous. It's worse than a migraine.
Honestly, he didn't want it to happen, but the more he tried to dodge it, the more it became more prominent. There was absolutely no way he was going to get away from this. And I said, look, Steve, just hang your coat up and don't just go with the flow, because you're not going to get away from this, you know. And so we did, and we've sort of learned and grown over the years how we deal with this, you know, and how Steve deals with this in his life and his family, for the, you know, because it affects them as well. And it seems to be gaining some form of just going with it, you know, and even gain some control about it. But it's very strange. It's very odd.
We're going to talk about some of the future things that, well, not the future, but the current things that you've been working on more recently. And obviously, if we document them on the air, then that adds a little bit more authenticity. Not that they need anymore, because you've done it for so long. But before we get into that, I want to just talk about this morning, because he's got a great story about this. If you missed the start of the show, we were talking about our friend of the show, Gary Heseltine, who's the detective, full working detective with the police, the British police, and he's a fantastic ufologist, researcher. He was on with Chris French, having a bit of a to-do on a recent This Morning show. We played the clip earlier, so we won't play it again. And they're going back on this Tuesday for a sort of ding-ding round 2. So it's the skeptic, the professional skeptic in Chris French against the ufologist Gary Heseltine. But you've got an interesting story. Something prompted you to pick up the phone, and led to a chain of events with This Morning. Tell us about that, Steve.
Well, I'd had a load of dreams again, you know, same type of thing, lots of them. And so I put it down on film. Another way of proving that I say is authentic. And then what I'd spoke of and what happened directly, I was given a lot of information regarding the cockle-picker deaths in Morecambe. And it was all on film. If you see it, it's obvious what it means. And just coincidentally around that time, on This Morning show, which it was just on because I don't normally watch, you know, but it was on anyway, and they had a girl on. She was Russian, And apparently she's got like X-ray eyes. She can
I
see
remember
into-
this. Yeah. She could see into people's bodies and
Yeah,
and
and if you've got
could actually
ailments
see,
and stuff or any kind of illnesses, she
Yeah.
could see them. And it interested me because although she spoke through an interpreter, she was a Russian girl. She told the show's doctor some stuff about him, and as it turned out, she was right. So it was a little bit weird. That's cool. So anyway, a day or two later, they're on about they'd tested this, tested that, and they got some cocky parapsychologist on. No offence, Steve.
No, but it's okay.
And he ripped her to bits, and I sat there and I thought, you know what, that's really out of order. And then they had on David Icke. I mean, David's got some out there views and whatever, you know, he's entitled to have them. But the interview was so tongue-in-cheek, and I'd just lived through all these immigrants, these Chinese immigrants that are drowned, you know, and I had so much information regarding that, and it was hanging all over me. So I phoned the show up, and I basically said, you're out of order. If you want somebody on there who's gifted and can ram it in your face, then I'll come down there and I'll do that. I'll show you. And then a girl there, Lisa, she was the news editor. She rung me up. I said, have a look at this film. So I sent it to her. And then eventually she said, I can see what it is, Steve, but there are broadcasting restrictions. It's obvious what it means, but we can't touch you. We can't frighten the public. I said, but you can get people on there that you can announce as being gifted, ridicule them, and then spit them out the other end. Come and try that with me, and because you won't be able to. And bless her, she said, we can't touch you, Steve. So I said, well, fair enough. So I stayed in touch with Lisa, and yeah, I blew her head away a few times.
Haven't you sort of mapped her career a little bit, or helped her with
I helped her
predictions?
along the way, yeah, a little bit. I advised her at the right things to do at the right time. She's living in Dubai now. God bless her. She's a great girl. I love her to death.
Can you focus your prophecies in terms of like that? Can you kind of go, what I want to dream about this event and see what comes out, or is it just all coming to you
in terms of
randomly?
that, if you want to call it mediumship, if I'm talking to you now and something comes to me, or sometimes I can look, I gave some information to a guy, David. He's a producer. He does films and stuff, but he does like corporate ones. But he used to do commercials and documentaries and whatever. And I got some stuff for him by looking into some glass, and I could see. I just spoke about what I could see, and he knew exactly what I was talking about. So I could say I'm talking to you now, and I can get a visual there, or something will come to me, or something will hit me, or if there's a girl here and a light shines above her head, that generally tells me she's going to have a baby, and they generally do. Well, they do. Not generally, they do. So it depends. It purely, I don't plain in meditate and go, right, I can tell you. If it comes to me, I'll give it to you. There was one guy, for instance, I met, never met him before, in 2002, and I went down south to get a break on my own just to chill my brain out. And I got some information for him. I told he was in some activity above his head that he shouldn't have been. And to prove that I was right about what I was saying, I told him his name, his full name. He went white and nearly fainted, but it banged in his head. You're doing that, you shouldn't be doing that, and here's your proof that I'm gifted. This is your name. I told him his name. So it just depends. I can't... It's any way I can answer that, really.
Okay, it's really interesting then.
Steve Mera is here as well. Steve, tell us about some of the newer stuff that's been coming in from Steve Johnson.
Well, we had an incident that took place recently regarding some children. You know, had an accident on a coach. I was aware of that incident. In fact, you know, it's getting to the point where I'm picking up on... I'm starting to pick up on the things, you know, and he's there doing the same thing I'm doing now, because he sends me this information. I read through it, and I've learnt to highlight parts of that for incidents. I sit there, I see the news, I suddenly think, that's the incident. Surely that's the incident. It's. So I look at the chance factors and statistics. I tell you what, here's a little example. So last year I tried to do a little test over Steve, over the incidents that he'd reported to us, and look at the chance factors. Okay, so we're talking, I did this over 28 incidents reported. And then I looked at the chance factors, and those chance factors increased. What was the chance of him obtaining that information then? And what was the chance if he did? Could it have been that? What is the chance of it could have been obtained in certain senses of speaking? the chance factors increase and increase and increase and increase. And what happens is, over a period of that time, the chance factors were 158 billion to 1. Now, in other words, you got a better chance going home tonight and a meteor knocking you on your head. Literally, I mean, I don't know how this guy does this, because it's either he does have this ability, without a shadow of a doubt. Humans do have some capabilities beyond science can explain, or simply it reveals the hand of God. and that's just not. I'm just not prepared to swallow that as a man of science. As you can well imagine. There's got to be there's got to be something worthy of further study. I'm doing this to advance the study in parapsychology, and for me, it's fantastic. It's certainly changed my viewpoint of people's abilities.
I think Arthur C. Clarke came out with a famous quote, didn't he? Mystics and mystical and mysteries and magic and all that sort of stuff. It's just science we don't understand.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. It's as simple as that.
It's just that we haven't caught up to it. Tell us about, if you can, some of the stuff that you've been getting recently.
The most recent, very simple, just a one-off dream stuck in my head. I was at a football ground, it was abroad, and I was stood in the side stand and I was looking to the right, so it'd be like beyond the goal, and they were like... I got the impression they were kind of Polish, like late 70s, early 80s skinhead types. Doc Martin boots and jeans and stuff. And this one particular guy I was looking at, he was marching forward and backward, and he was singing in motion. And I got the impression they were neo-Nazi type. And behind him, there was 4 ghosts, if you will, of actual Nazi German soldiers. And he was singing this, ole, 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 ole. And they were marching behind him, and I got the impression that they were working through him to be a neo-Nazi. And when I woke from that, I thought, that was strong. What's that telling me? I don't know. I don't know where that's going, if anywhere, yet.
So is it a process? Will you get more dreams? Will they get stronger?
Yeah.
Will this lead to something, to some sort of
when I sit up and notice, if I have a dream with a theme, same type of theme, and I'll have 3 or 4 or 5 of them. Like with September 11, it was Bowen's, and I'd never even been on one at that time, so I knew if it recurs, not necessarily the same thing, but the same theme, the same thing it's about, then yeah. And I've had some football stuff before this. I mean, months and months and months ago, I saw Harry Redknapp in an England suit, and I saw loads of young chavvy lads, and the feeling was they were going to kick off and stuff.
Now, this was a long time before. It was the current manager, what's his name, the Italian guy,
Fabio Capello.
Capello, yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So this was a long time before.
Yeah.
While Capello was still the manager.
A mate of mine actually said, "Well, yeah, Steve, but it's obvious because everyone's touting Redknapp as the next manager of England." I said, "Yeah, but what would you get for Capello to be gone before the Euros? Because that's what I'm feeling here." So I had all that to come. And then, of course, the riots kicked off in Tottenham. There's loads of uddy chavs doing what they do, so that placed that. He's been properly touted as the England manager. I've seen him in an England suit in a dream months and months ago. That then led on to what I was being told was the next terror incident was going to be big and it was going to be horrible and it would involve kids. And while I was on holiday, actually, that maniac in Norway shot all them kids at that summer camp. So it just rolls on. So now this one I've just told you about, that links in with football theme, like with Redknapp thing there. It's going that way now, so who knows?
How long will that take to come to fruition? Are we talking weeks, months, or no idea?
Either.
I mean, in some cases, it's been the following day.
Yeah.
I mean, I spat me tea out watching the news. You told me about an incident regarding the some bombs and flower beds, the Queen, London, and all that sort of thing. And I thought, okay, Steve, okay, I've got it down. I said, get it over into me an email, and thank heavens he did that night, Because I'm sat there the following morning watching Sky News, and I couldn't help spit my tea out when they read out, news item that some guys have been caught in an attempt to plant bombs in flower beds to catch the Queen, and I just couldn't believe it. And that was the following day. So I don't know, Neil. I've got to be quick on my heels, because we could be talking the following day, or we could be talking a month away.
The big event coming up is, of course, the Jubilee and also the Olympics. Is there anything heading in that direction? Or not yet?
I can't definitively tell you.
Okay.
I can only tell you what I see. I would imagine a lot of psychics, if you will try and stretch things out and try and... I don't do that. I tell it as I see it. If I ain't seen out, I tell you I ain't seen out. That's it. I can't...
You're listening to Planet X. We're talking to Steve Johnson, the man who can literally see the future in dreams. Dan is here. He's got some,
we got some of the
things on Facebook.
We've got some of the Planet X listeners on Facebook with a couple of questions for you, Steve. First up, this touches back onto something Steve was saying before. He said, the question from Melissa, have you ever tried to change the events you've seen in your dreams?
Yeah.
Really? That's really interesting.
Does it work?
Again, we're back to that paradox. There's 2 examples I can give you. In the early days, I was dreaming regularly that I was driving down a particular road on the way home from work, and it was very strong, symbolic. The back end of my car was falling off as if it was like a cut and shut. And it was a fairly old car anyway, so I changed the route, so that didn't happen. Another one, my nephew, Ben, he was going to join the army, and I had a horrible, horrible foreboding about that. So I said, no, you ain't. And he insisted he was going to, and I said, well, if I have to kidnap you and tie you up, you ain't joining the army. And he didn't, and he's still here. So did I change the future or not? I don't know.
Don't they call it lucid dreaming, when you have a dream and you can actually interact? And
there are lucid dreaming, but of course, there are hypnagogic states, and of course, just going into sleep, coming out of sleep, and of course, we all try and achieve that rapid eye movement for 8, all we want, basically, is 20 minutes per night, but we spend 8 hours moving all over the bed trying to get those 20 minutes, and that's all the body requires. But in that time, we do have paralysis. It's input blockade, output blockade. We're not supposed to be able to live out our dreams during that time. But people do dream, and when they get those dreams, they can relive those memories, they obtain those memories in the conscious realm. I'm sure, do you dream in colour, Neil?
I think I do, yeah, I think I do.
Yeah.
But the thing with me and my dreams is that, and they can be quite vivid from time to time, but once I wake up, that's it. When they start going, probably within 10 minutes of waking up, most of the dream will have gone. Although I've got to say that there will be certain things that happen in the day which will trigger off memories.
Exactly, yeah.
Is that normal?
That is normal. We don't know as schemers and pointers. And you think, sometimes you can just see into something. You think, I just reminded me I had a dream about that. But we're talking something slightly different here. We're talking such a dream that's so impacting that it imprints into your mind immediately. And you think, it's like when you had a bad dream when you're a child. Those are impacting dreams. You hold on to them, don't you? You carry them through the day. But when they recur, when there's the theme, that's when it starts getting interesting.
Dan's got another one from Facebook.
That's right. A question from Claire. Do you or any of your children or siblings experience dreams like you? Is it is this something that is running in a family?
Me and the wife fairly recently had the same type of dream at the same time. So whether my kids do, I don't think so. You don't, do you, Bab?
The kids are here in the studio.
Nah,
Maybe that's one to come.
I hope they never do and all, to be fair.
Yeah, because you were saying to me off air that it's not just the headaches, but they are very intense.
Yeah, and
some of the stuff that you say.
So many times I've grieved for people who I don't even know, and it ain't even happened yet. And that's hard work, really. It's draining, sapping your energy, and to feel sad about something that you don't even know what it is until you see, that's why. And this is 3 or 4 times a year I go through that. Steve will tell you that.
Yeah, he has had difficult times ahead. But, Steve's available on Facebook, Steve Johnson. You can find him through your website, through your Facebook. If anybody wants to be contacted, he's actually writing a book. About
I was going to say, is there a book going to be in this?
He is writing a book, but this is by no reason the reasons why he's doing this. But I've said to him, the documentation that we've got is definitely worthy of paper. People do need to read this.
You've got to get it down there. So if you want to get in touch with Steve, Steve Mirror has just pointed out, you can do through our website, planetxlive.co.uk. or through the Facebook page, or you can just look up Steve Johnson on Facebook and get in touch with him that way. Steve, I think you are definitely going to be coming back in, not just because you're a Liverpool fan. And one of the first things they did when they got here was, did you go to Anfield?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they popped down to Anfield. He got to the studios here at City Talk and said, I'll be back soon, and we'll just take the family off to Anfield. So I think you'll be back anyway, because you like the city. But I've got a feeling that you're going to be back talking about more of your future dream stuff.
Yeah.
Look forward to it.
Cool.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, mate.
Planet X. The truth is on air. City Talk 105.9.
So there was, I was writing poetry and stuff, and I was calling it Terror in the Sky. And as that went on, I had a vision while I was awake, and I told my wife about it. It was lying next to me. I was in it like a helicopter, you know, the glass, like helicopters, you know, little glass all the way around. And I was looking down, and all these tall buildings, and I was like, oh, wow, I'm in America, cool. So I said to the missus, I nudged her, I said, we're going to America, Steph. She goes, oh, that's good to sleep with you. And then I worked that out as it looked like New York. And then as the time went on then, one particular night, I could hear New York, New York by Sinatra. And I've got an old Sinatra album, because I've got loads of records. And I actually got up. I thought, is it on the record player? No, it weren't. And I went on, and that happened to me quite a bit. I could hear this song kept hitting my head all the time. Of all the songs that hit your head, that's one that wouldn't hit mine ordinarily.
And this wasn't in a dream. This was while you were awake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was searching. I was within my every big bit of news that's been since then comes to me before it happens.
Now, the first big bit of news was, I think you were telling me before we got you on, was 9/11. So how far in the future did you start dreaming about 9/11? Tell us about that sequence.
March 2001. Very strong dream. The elements were all there. Back at my childhood home. My mum was there. I think my dad was in that. Out of nowhere, the huge Boeing come overhead. And so low, I could read its number plate, if there's a number plate on a Boeing, but you know what I mean. And then a bomb went off in the street, and then there was fighter jets hurtling through the sky. And this was taking place in a council estate in the Midlands, and I was in this dream. It was so strong. Didn't make any sense to me. Boeings, bombs, and didn't make any sense. And then there was another one that opened with a Boeing. And this dream was centred around the Spiritualist Church near where I live as well, oddly. And that opened with a Boeing, and there was people running around with machine guns and bullets pinging everywhere, and your parents are dead at a fairly young age, I suppose I was, you know, and I thought, well, yeah, you know, maybe. And then it started to wake me up the same time every time. Same setting, same people. It was 22 minutes past 2 in the morning, and this kept happening. So I was thinking to myself, what is the chances of that happening? How many minutes are there in a day and stuff like that? And I thought, well, to wake up the same time every time, the same type of dreaming, even though initially not a lot was happening, I thought, there's something going on here, something weird. And then as 2000 kicked in, this waking up at this time, having these sorts of dreams was starting to, it was starting to take over my life in many ways. And then into 2001, early on, some really powerful dreams that definitely, when September 11 happened, that's what it was telling me. And from then on, it's just gone on and on and on and on and on. Don't stop.
Planet X. The truth is on air. City Talk 105.9.
Let's talk dreams. This is quite an interesting little story that you first got involved with, Steve. How many years ago?
8 years now. Steve first contacted me, and it's quite interesting, actually, the first phone call, because I was quite up for the challenge. Steve said that he could provide me evidence of an ability he claimed to have.
And Steve Johnson is actually here now, the man who dreams the future. Steve, welcome to Planet X.
Yes.
Now, there's a funny story about you actually coming in, because he doesn't do many media interviews, do you, Steve?
Nah.
But there was two reasons why you felt like you had to do this one. First was because our first show was on the 1st of April.
Yeah.
And that's your son's birthday.
Yeah.
And your son is called Robbie.
After Robbie Fowler, yeah.
After Robbie Fowler. You're from the Midlands.
Yeah.
But a massive Liverpool fan.
Fanatic, yeah.
And he's come dressed in all his Liverpool gear. So apologies to... It's probably not the best thing to start
We're in the
the interview
final,
with.
mate.
I know, but you've got half of the blue half all turning off now.
Ah, well.
I'm still here.
But, yeah, Dan's a blue, aren't you? He's a blue.
Sad
so
blue.
he's not too happy about yesterday. Anyway, listen, let's not talk football. Let's talk dreams. Now, you first contacted Steve Mera when it all started happening for you. Let's go way back and find out when it all started happening.
Originally?
Yeah, when did you... I mean,
late 90s.
Everybody dreams, but these were like something you've never had before.
Yeah.
They were so, realistic or vivid?
What led me to start to think a lot about them was that I was dreaming about my parents. And so I'd have been sort of 28, 29. Bearing in mind my mum died when I was like 15. My dad died when I was 23. Then out of the blue, I started to dream about them. And it was that they were repetitive in as much as they were set in the same place, which is where I was brought up in the Midlands, a council estate I lived on. And I just thought, and I spoke to my wife about it, and it was kind of, well, you know what, there's a lot happened in your life.